Hello and welcome to DNA's ongoing Lunch and Learn series. I'm Will Booth from DNA Business Management Solutions, and today we are showing a product called Credit Hound for Sage 300, and it's a tool for helping you manage your cash flow and automating the processes of your accounts receivable. And just before we start, I wanted everybody to know you'll be on mute. If you have any questions, you can put them in the questions window because we're going to go through the session. And if I think we could answer them throughout the session, I'll ask our presenter, but we'll have a Q&A at the end and have a discussion about the questions. But without further ado, I would like to welcome Richard Haywood. He is the Global Alliance Manager at DrayCir. DrayCir is the creator of Credit Hound, and we did a recent session as well on their spindle document distribution solution for Sage 300. And so Spindle is an endorsed solution of Sage 300 with their Credit Hound product. And Richard will be walking through some common pain points in people that have an inefficient accounts receivable process, and how Credit Hound and Sage 300 can help address those and automate collections. As they say, quicker quote to cash. So that's always good. And Richard has been with DrayCir for over 10 years. He's helped thousands of companies to review their business processes and help them save countless man hours and provide increased collections and save lots of money with that. His job has taken him across the world, from the US and Asia and Canada, and of course he's based out of the UK. And he's worked with a broad range of sectors, and I know he's really excited to walk us through this presentation today. So welcome, Richard.
Hey, Will, thanks for having me today.
All right, so we're going to get started here. We'll go through the presentation, have questions at the end, and then I'll talk about the next event that we're having, and then we'll let you go. So Richard, I am going to make you the presenter. Here we go. If you want to share your screen, that'll be great. All right, I can see your presentation. So over to you.
Thanks very much, and yeah, thank you again for having me today. So, and thank you for the introduction. So yeah, I've been working with DrayCir for quite some time, as Mike mentioned. So, we work with DNA around the spindle product, but also today is around the Credit Hound product for Sage 300. So as Will said, it's all about from quote to cash. Big thing with businesses today, and more so than ever, is trying to improve their efficiency around their day-to-day processes, not just in terms of traditional finance, but actually accounts receivable. Accounts receivable is so important right now for a business, just to make sure they're doing everything they can do to get money in from their customers. And when you think about it and take a step back and say to yourself, why am I having to employ lots and lots of people, or having to consider employing another person, which is a cost to me, to make sure my customers are paying you on time? It just becomes more ridiculous the more you think about it. So we're proud to have a solution that really helps to streamline the accounts receivable process. And it doesn't matter what size of business or what industry you're in, Credit Hound is a brilliant fit for you because it's so customizable in the way it works. And each and every one of you on today's session will obviously be in a different industry, and you'll all have your own customers that you've been working with for a very long time, or maybe you just recently started working with these customers. Again, Credit Hound gives you a lot of flexibility in how we deal with these, and that's what this session is all about. It's just to learn how we can be more personal and make sure we're working more efficiently in terms of bringing money into the business. So just a quick intro to us at DrayCir. So we're a multi-award winning partner from Sage. We've been working with Sage since 2002 even. So yeah, long time. We have thousands of customers worldwide that use this product already. We have some fantastic case studies of businesses in the US and Canada already. So, if you ever need to speak to someone that's using the product, we can absolutely put you in touch and see how they've really taken advantage of the software. So some of the things to consider before we go into the main presentation is just some stats really. I mean, 1 in 10 invoices is paid late, and that is impacting small and medium businesses, totaling around 3 trillion globally. And this is the thing, as a Sage 300 customer, you may be a small, medium to a large business, and again, you'll be dealing with perhaps some very large customers, and because of that, it's very hard to dictate sometimes, making sure you get paid on time. So it's absolutely critical that you have a process in place to deal with your range of customers that you deal with on a daily basis. So yeah, if there are some customers that you don't want to send an automated reminder to, but actually you'd quite like to have a phone call with that customer, that's something that could be scheduled for you. So, it's really down to the customization. Now, over 25% of payments are made late to medium-sized businesses. So again, that could be one of yourselves on the line here. So what are you doing at this moment in time to make sure you're doing everything you can to get paid on time? It's very tricky without, again, putting more resource in place to deal with that. Now, I was speaking to a customer last week, has been using Credit Hound for about 3 months now. Now, they looked at Credit Hound because a new CFO came into the business, and he was horrified that they had so much debt in the 90 and 120 day aging periods. And he obviously quickly went out, looked on actually the Sage marketplace, which is like a Sage branded website listing products like Credit Hound, and he discovered the products. We gave him a demonstration. He actually took it on board within a couple of days, and I spoke to him yesterday, in fact, and we had a catch up. And yes, he's still learning the product, but he's absolutely ecstatic about how the products helped him. They've reduced their debtor days already by around 30 days. So again, think of you and your business and how that can help you from a cash flow point of view. And I've got many stories that I can share with you, not too dissimilar to that really. So businesses are typically spending on average 15 days per year chasing late payments. Okay, so that's 15 solid days of work time. And this is the thing, credit control or AR is normally one task of many for an individual within the company. So that just means that when you look at your ledger, you're starting at A and working down to Z, but you never get down to Z. You get probably halfway, you finish for the day, and you start again the following week perhaps, and that's added to all the other work that you're having to do. So again, we can absolutely streamline this process for you. So gone will be the days of having to print off an aged debtors report, which you probably do on a Monday, and we all know that as soon as you print it off or export it to Excel, it's out of date. Those notes you put against an individual account or invoice, they don't really serve much relevance to what they were previous week. So it's really important that the system's up to date for you. And we give you a centralized dashboard and information per account as to what's going on. So actually think of Credit Hound as CRM, but for credit control. You're going to see all your notes in there. You're going to be able to check incoming payments. So again, you're not having to print off an aged debt report anymore and compare that with a cash allocation report and then mark off per customer which ones you no longer need to chase. You won't need to do that anymore either. Having to create letters and emails for individual customers, having to attach copy invoices. having to list all the invoices that are outstanding. Again, this is something that we automate for you. And I'll just bring back that point where if there are some customers that you don't want to automatically send emails to, we can have a completely separate collection process just for them. So for them, maybe we don't chase them, or perhaps we schedule a telephone call instead. So just take a moment just to remember that Credit Hound can be used to create lots of different collection paths or collection processes for all your different customers. Just because you have, I don't know, 200, 300 accounts on your ledger, it absolutely does not mean that they get chased in the same way. If you're one customer that you'd like to chase at day one of an invoice becoming overdue, we can do it just for them. If you've got some accounts that actually you'd like to remind them 10 or even 15 days before the invoice is due, we could do that as well. So that helps you to be really, really proactive. And actually, I'd strongly recommend you start to do something like that, because by chasing a customer 10 or even 15 days in advance, it buys you time. Because if they come back and say, oh, Will, can you I've got a query with this invoice. I don't think you've got the right amount on there. Well, you've got basically 15 days to speak with a sales rep, get the invoice adjusted, sent out, and hopefully still get paid on time. So if you're only chasing at day one past due, the chance of you getting paid on time is obviously zero. The chance of you getting paid within the 10 days past due is probably very, very slim. So that's why your debtor days are probably quite high right now. So if you can be proactive, put these processes in place, you're going to see a big benefit in your cash flow. And perhaps if you're borrowing money from the bank, or you've got an overdraft that you're dipping into every so often, hopefully this will mean you no longer have to do that. Some people borrow money just for a cash flow point of view, just because their customers aren't paying you. Again, that's ridiculous, isn't it? So
you can't see me, but I'm smiling, Richard, because of course that scenario happens.
it's exactly what happens. So, we're going to help you be more proactive. We're going to give you a task area so you can see all the reminders that you need to follow up on. You're going to be able to go into an account and see exactly what's happened for a particular invoice. If you need to share that data with another person within the organization, you could export it via built-in report and share that amongst your peers. So again, all this information is available very quickly and touch of your fingers. So the beauty of this product is it's built to connect to Sage 300 right out of the box. There's no development. You can be installed with this product very, very quickly indeed. What takes the time really is spending some time with you really, just to find out how you chase your customers, what are the exceptions, and then we'll do the configuration around that. But if you want to see your data inside Credit Hound, we could do that very, very quickly. So whether you're wanting to schedule email reminders, schedule telephone calls, combination of both, whether you want to put an account automatically on stop if they go over their credit limit or they become 150 days past due, again, all these things are possible. What we can do is use grouping within Credit Hound or categories within Credit Hound, or we can use an optional field from Sage 300. And that's probably something I do suggest you make a note of today is, if you don't already today, use an optional field to categorize your accounts in some sort of way, do it. Those optional fields are there for you to use. And if you haven't got them set up, again, contact DNA and they'll help you get those configured. But that just means that you can start to group or categorize your accounts, and they'll come straight through into Credit Hound anyway. And that will help you from a reporting point of view in Credit Hound or in Sage 300 regardless. And I know Will mentioned about the Zap webinar coming up next. So again, Zap would be able to use the optional fields as a slicer for any of those reports you're looking at. So it's useful for both Credit Hound, standard Sage 300, and also Zap too. The to-do list will help you remind you who to call, how much is owed. But what it'll also do is remove any diary entries that have been paid. So you're not in that scenario where you pick up the phone, you call a customer, and they turn around and say to you, "Yeah, we paid you last week. Why are you calling me?" That scenario is not going to happen again for you. So again, it helps you, have a good relationship with your customers. There's no awkwardness there. And let's be honest, when it comes to customers and payments, it is very much about relationships. Yeah, you'll always pay your buddy quicker than you would someone you don't get on with, and that's a fact. So again, if we can make sure that those workflows are set up in the appropriate way for all your different types or levels of customers, then again, this is where the product again will excel for you. So for those things that aren't always plain and simple, where customer says, actually, I'm not paying this invoice because of X, Y, and Z reasons, we have dispute management built into the product. So again, if Will turns around and says to me, Richard, I'm not paying this invoice because, well, actually, I never received the goods, well, we'll log that in the system. I'll have to escalate that to my manager because he's in charge of operations and he's in charge of shipping out the items. That just means that one invoice is going to get put in query. The rest of Will's account will still get chased for payment. And there's been so many times where just because one invoice is in query, the whole account no longer gets chased. And that's crazy because actually that is used very often as a delaying tactic for businesses. They're just going to put in a little query just because they know that's going to give them a bit of breathing space. That's not fair to you as a business, just because there's one query on one invoice. And it could be a very small invoice and all the others are, tens of thousands of dollars. You should still chase those other invoices. It's just because you don't have that system in place is the reason why you don't. So there's a lot of reports that come out of the box that I'll show you today, from aged debtors report to notes to dispute management to cash flow and promise payments. All the letters and emails are completely customizable for you. All the emails can actually be scheduled. So if you're planning to head down to Mexico to the coast for some sunshine, and you're worried that credit control isn't going to happen while you're away, or you've left it to someone else, well, we can schedule the routines to run automatically, say every day for you in the background. So obviously the thing it won't do is pick up the phone and make those phone calls, but if you just want to get these emails continually sent out, we can run in the background for you. So just a couple of examples for you, a range of different size customers. The top customer there has around 60 staff across the whole business. Within 6 months of using Credit Hound, their amount of money reduced was around $196,000. So again, not insignificant at all. Now, within 1 week of using Credit Hound for the next customer, they're a customer of only 14 people, then they increase their cash flow by just over $10,000. But all of them are saving time and working man hours every day and every week. So let's take a quick look at the product, shall we? So if we have a look in here.
Yeah, I can see your screen.
Perfect. So when we go into Credit Hound, we launch the application. I've got it installed on my desktop there. And this is the dashboard that loads up once you've logged in. So I'm looking at Homestyle Kitchens there. That's my company. And for this one company, I can see outstanding debt. I'm a UK connected company. That's why you're seeing everything in pounds, of course, but you connect it to yours and you're going to see it in dollars, of course. And we do support multi-currency. So just to make that clear. So mini age debt, you can see it in terms of bandings there. Promised cash, so this is already based on some chasing and some communications that I've already logged in the system. So this is user driven, so this should be changing all the time. Every time I speak to, say, another customer or speak to Will and he says, yeah, I'm going to pay you $3,000 and I'll pay you next week, that would increase to 10 there. So that's user driven and me logging that, but we're going to do some of that in a minute. So you can see where money's sitting right now within the business, anything that's not due, anything that's past due, anything in dispute or query there, and any cash that's not allocated. So it is important that you do make sure you allocate your cash when any payments that come in and assign them to the correct invoices, because if you don't, then of course the system will think that it is overdue, as it is, because you've not allocated the cash against it. So again, who has my money? This is just the top accounts by turnover, nothing more, but it helps me to keep a close eye on those guys. Scrolling down, I've got some other widgets. We can move these around, of course. You know, these are my sort of to-do items. So these are some follow-ups I need to do, some disputes I've already got logged within the system, and so on. But if I just want to look at a list of accounts with disputes already on them, I can click on this slicer there, and that will take me to a pre-filtered list of accounts with the disputes on them. So from within here, I can filter by amounts there on this column. But maybe I want to bring through those optional fields through from Sage. So I use optional fields to include who the sales rep is and what account type they are. So if I need to filter on those, I can do now. So that's really helpful to me anyway. So if you're a bigger company with multiple collections people, then maybe you've got an optional field that tells you or tells us who the collections person is. And from that, we can devise a strategy based on collections clerk. So we just take a quick look at what we call the rules. So these are the workflows or the automations that I've been talking about so far. These are totally customizable, okay? This is where we'd spend the time with you to understand what you'd like to be set up in an ideal world. You know, just because you do something now doesn't mean you have to continue doing it within the software, because there's so many extra bells and whistles that you can take advantage of. But one of the first automations I've got is this one here. We call it, or I call it, a preemptive letter or email there. And this is the logic, okay? I call it preemptive letter, fine, but this is the logic. So any invoice that's not due yet, it doesn't matter about the payment terms, okay? The payment terms are set in Sage, of course they are, and the due date is calculated by Sage. Credit Hound just looks at the due date that Sage sets. So therefore, any due date in our software is day 0. Yeah. So if I want to look at an invoice 10 days in advance, I just do -10. It's that simple. Maybe I don't want to chase them today if I've already chased this invoice in the last 7 days. Maybe I only want to chase this invoice if the transaction outstanding amount is greater than $100 or less than $100. Again, you choose. There's lots and lots of filters and options here. So if you want to base it on the optional field or analysis code, as we call it, if you want to base it on a credit limit, days since last account chase, maybe you want to base it on the percentage of credit limit they're using or have used. You can add all these filters on this left-hand column. The action is here. So I've decided to create a letter, which is that one there. But I've got some different ones available to me. Now, not only do I want to send an email, but maybe in this scenario, I want to schedule a phone call as well, but not do it right away. I want to do it for tomorrow. So Credit Hound's good at doing multiple things. So I'm going to send an email and schedule a telephone call for tomorrow, because I know that my customers will really respond well to that. So just because this is a demonstration and I'm going to run it manually just by clicking run. But like I said earlier on, we can schedule this to run every day at a set time for you if you want to. So here already it's identified 25 accounts that are invoices during the next 10 days. Perfect. Now it's going to create all the letters for me right now for all those 25 customers. So that's the first one, second, third. Now, again, if there's multiple invoices on that account that happen to be during the next 10 days, it will can be combined on the one letter. But I don't want to send these out in the mail. I want to email these. So what I do is I hit the print button. And I choose a special printer called Spindle Pro Auto there, which is included in the package for use with Credit Hound, which is brilliant. because what will allow me to do now is get all these sent out by email within a couple of seconds. So that's doing the emailing as we speak. If I go to Outlook, because it's a demo, I have told it to go to my drafts, but ordinarily it goes straight out like that. And here's one of the reminders that I'm doing here. So this is the template, completely customizable. We can add your logos on here. Your wording is customizable, but we just kept it pretty generic for today. Here's the print of email. Here's that document you just saw a second ago, but automatically attached as a PDF. And if you have invoices saved as PDFs on your server, our product's clever enough to go and pick them up and attach them to the email. So in this case, we've got a preemptive reminder here. It's detailing the invoices here. We'll automatically attach the 4 invoices for you to the same email. Again, because it's a demo, I've just attached just a random invoice, but this would attach all 4 invoices for you automatically. The caveat to that is we already need you to have those PDFs filed on your server with the invoice number as the file name. Okay, if you're not able to do that or worried that that's going to take you a lot of time, then we can speak to you about using Spindle for Sage 300 as a separate add-on product for Sage. But just let us know if you're struggling with sending out invoices or any other document for that matter. It might be remittances or payment journals or purchase orders, you name it.
You took the words right out of my mouth.
So if we look at one of the other rules, actually, before we do that, let's just take a quick look at the accounts list. There's a column here called last chase date. So the significance of that is it's automatically been updated with today's date for all those 26 customers. So if I go and look at a customer there, for example, this is literally at random, we're going to see against these invoices, they are all different. They all happen to be due in the next 4 days. And again, that's why it's -4. But you can see we automatically logged a note against it. So the idea with Credit Hound is rather than put notes just against an account, you've got notes against an individual invoice, and therefore you've got the audit trail. So if I'm looking at that one invoice right there at the top, which is 52 days past due, it's pretty bad, I know, but you can see that I've chased them once, I've chased them twice, we had a telephone conversation and they promised pop a check in the mail for me. And these are the notes and the callback time that hopefully they're going to pay me by. So that's something that I've logged previously. So they should pay me by the 29th of April. What if they don't pay me by that time? Well, surprise, surprise, I've got a reminder. And that's what we call the to-do list. It's like your task list for the day. So if I scroll down and look for the 29th of April, that's the callback for there. So that makes sure that I do not forget a promise that's been made to me. I'm not having to manually create an entry in my Outlook calendar to remind me. It's all here. And yes, this does have the option to sync to your Outlook calendar if you want it to. If you don't like list views, I do personally, but if you don't like list views, then you can have a calendar view like that. And it gives you the same data. Do you know how we created a task for tomorrow for all preemptive reminders to telephone them? You can see those already scheduled in my diary there, set at 10-minute intervals, which is brilliant. So I know first thing in the morning when I come in tomorrow, I know what I'm doing for that day, you know, and that's the great thing about it. Now, again, as I said earlier, what if this customer here happened to pay me? And Will, you've allocated that money this afternoon. I come in tomorrow morning and, well, this is just going to disappear. It's not going to be there. That's taken the work away from me to print off an aged debt report and compare that with your cash allocation report. You don't need to do it anymore. It automatically disappears. So you hit autocomplete, it does it. Okay. So you can see anything that's been created by the system as a schedule will show as automated. Anything that's been created by you as a promise to pay will be set up as a blue callback there. And there's a couple of other ones here which we're going to cover shortly, and that's the disputes. So we've got internal and external dates to remind ourselves on. So I've got a call scheduled for tomorrow for this customer here, and it's for all these invoices here. So what we do is hit chase account, start chase, and we select all the invoices we need to talk to the customer about. So again, Will's going to be the customer, or Will's going to be Phil, and I'm working within the chase tab here. So we're on the phone, and maybe Will turns around and says, actually, we can't afford to pay you right now, and we'll promise to pay you on the next payment run. Okay, well, maybe you decide that that's fair enough, and you select next payment run. But all these are customizable, but you select the correct one in that scenario. So, if we're going to pop a check in the mail, then we select that one. It will then prompt you to get some extra data from them. But all this is customizable, but that's what comes out of the box. So as we've seen these invoices here, we can actually see that even though that invoice amount is 1,600, we've already received some money against it. So therefore, we're only chasing that. So all these combined is already totaled for me there. So the customer's going to pay me 15K. Oops. And we're going to get paid by 1st of May. So therefore, I'm going to set this to the 1st of May. Or not, because the 1st of May is a Saturday. And who likes to work on a Saturday? So let's put the 3rd. So 3rd of May, and we'll schedule a telephone call for after lunch because we don't like to work on an empty stomach either. So we'll assign that note here. Any notes you put it here gets logged against each invoice automatically. That's been logged now. So within a couple of seconds of putting down the phone, we can finish our reminders. We can send one of the follow-up letters, which again, customizable. Because you approve that letter as well if you want to. Hit finish. And again, within seconds of putting down the phone, we can send an email detailing all these invoices, when we're going to get paid by, and that's gone out there. So if we go and look at our home page and refresh that, then the promised cash has increased to $15,000 or pounds, and that's in the future. So this should constantly be changing based on you having telephone conversations or email exchanges, logging amounts and dates when you're going to get paid by. So whereby you're chasing a customer and they say, well, actually, we're not paying these 2 invoices because of X, Y, and Z reasons, then you can log them in dispute like this. It's really quick, really easy. So again, it could be that the fact that they've not received the goods. So we're logging that. So we'll have a list of contacts that are in your company. They don't need to be Sage 300 custom users. They don't need to be Credit Hound users. We're going to send them an email about this, what we're logging right now. So these are contacts we just add into the system only. So So the customer's saying we've not received the items on the 12th of April, like we think they did. So basically, I need to get Paul to check that. So I need to make sure that Paul is going to come back to me with an answer on a reply. I know he's busy, but I need to make sure he does come back to me with a response. So I'm going to put a reminder actually for tomorrow. I'm going to put it for tomorrow by the end of the day. Yeah. Now I'm going to make sure the customer's updated by the end of the week. So let's do the 23rd by 5 p.m. So this is internal, this is external. So when we look in that to-do list, and we saw the yellow and red markers. This is the yellow one, this is the red one. It's very simple. So again, within seconds of putting down the phone, isn't it great to be able to send a customer an email detailing the dispute reference number, who it's been assigned to, when we're going to resolve it by, and so on. So really quick, really easy, and great customer service. Now we're going to email Paul with his copy detailing his notes, and hopefully when we're going to try and resolve it by. Yeah. So again, we'll get that sent out. So I think they'll go out. I'll just come back to that in a second. So that's gone out there. Now, if I refresh this screen, that's increased, as has that, because it was the Festive Homes account. So you're wondering, how much time or how much money, should have been brought in this week, or and that's a very common thing. People are expected to bring in X amount every week. Well, if you're the collections person doing this job, and you need something to back you up on the fact that you did chase these accounts, but operationally as a business, we haven't brought this money in because of those factors, you can run a report off, which will be, say, that one there, dispute analysis with notes. So we can choose on dispute type. I'm going to keep it generic for now. We can base it on optional field if we needed to. Run this off. And you can see within a certain date range, if I had selected a date range anyway, this week, 3 times the goods were faulty, twice the goods weren't received. And that equates to around, well, £80,000 dollars just for those 2 alone. So if you want to be made aware about what's going on in your business, this will do it for you. This will help operationally your company. So again, it's not all about customers aren't paying on time. It's about being alerted to common issues and dealing with them properly so that they don't happen again. It helps you give you an idea about, so on average, how long does it take to resolve those kinds of issues. Further down, breakdown per notes, per invoice, exactly what's gone on, whether it's been resolved or not, of which these reports can be exported to Excel for sharing with other people, or if you want to keep it simple as a PDF, again, save it as a network drive, make that available for other people in the business. So if, for example, I need to give Will an update on a particular account because all the activities that I've done on it, then quite simply, I run this report off here, run it for that one account. And I know customers, prior to using Credit Hound, were spending hours every week compiling a report just like this for every account on their ledger, because having to combine an age debt report with an Excel report which stored all the notes, combine them together. We'll give you this in seconds. So just for this one account, we know for that one invoice, we chased them once, twice, had a phone call, and they're the notes that are around it. These 2 invoices, these are activities. In fact, it's in query there. So again, top level for that account, more granular level per invoice following it below. Really, really powerful, helpful stats that are available to you. If you're a CFO and you manage a collection, a credit controller, or looking after a team of collections people, then you could use the user activity report even. So it's always a little bit worrying when I run this off, but run it for myself. This period of time, we've chased 38 accounts. These are the number of disputes I've had to log. And that is around £56,000. Amount of money promised to me versus the amount of money paid. So I keep a close eye on this. But then we go down again per customer, exactly what I've done per account, what emails are sent out. So all that's available to you. If you want to know about sort of outstanding to do items. You can run a report for the same thing. We've got one outstanding reminder there as of today, or a manager can easily look in the to-do list, unfilter his or her name from that list, because the manager will have access to all users, tick them all, and they can see all the activities per credit controller just by selecting everyone. Now, if they find that we've got someone scheduling to have some leave for vacation or holiday, or maybe they're not well, then there's no reason why they couldn't select all the work and reassign that workload to another collections person instead. So it's very easy to move around tasks or prioritize tasks as well. Because if you've got a callback with this one here and you're a manager overseeing this, then you can mark this as high priority and add some notes around that here as well, or there. So we come back to the rules. So the only rule I've run so far today is this preemptive rule. It's going to all customers 10 days prior to due date. But again, a couple of times even, I've said that this rule does not need to apply to all customers. So how do we make sure that doesn't happen? Well, we can do it in various ways, but one of them might be using that optional field data from Sage 300. So we can say, okay, if the account type equals construction, let's do it just for them, because we know that this is no disrespect to construction people, but for demo purposes, construction people are bad at paying, so that's why we're going to run the rule just for them. So it's as simple as adding that filter. Now, when would be the next chase? Well, again, the next chase could be schedule a telephone call. So in that case, we're going to write a to-do item there. And instead of using optional fields this time, maybe we use categories. So categories are purely inside Credit Hound only, and I may have a category called corporate accounts. So I don't want this to run for corporate accounts. So I'm going to do not equal to corporate. And this rule will run just for all accounts not equal to corporate. Put my teeth back in. And we've got 25 accounts that match that. You can still override it and say, don't send it to these. But I would question why you're deselecting these, because it just means that the rule you've got set up isn't quite what you'd need it to be. So again, this is where we help you with the configuration of the software. So again, remember that you can have completely different collection paths for all your different customers. So if you want to chase a particular group of customers weekly, no problem. If there are another group of customers that you only want to schedule telephone calls every 20 days, that's their collection path. It's so customizable. Whether we use categories, the optional fields, it doesn't matter. But my preference would be that you use the optional fields, just so that you've got that data, as the master in Sage 300. That's just my advice to you. But we can absolutely use the categories. So all your letters live here, and again, customizable. Again, this is something that we will help you with. We'll change the wording. So if you're a business that's obviously working in English and French, we can have an English templated letter and email and a French templated letter email. So a lot of businesses I work with have a field in Sage that denotes the language. That comes through into Credit Hound, and we can base a logic around that so that we'll automatically send a French email if it's a French-speaking company, which is again one less task for me, which I like a lot. So I just want to summarize from today's demonstration, if I may. So your dashboard is really just high level. If you ever want to drill into any of the data on particular disputes, or if you just want to drill into a particular account, you can do that from the dashboard there. You've got notes against individual invoices. you've got all your data to hand because your address information is coming through from Sage, your contacts are coming through from Sage as well. You've got your age, debt, turnover, optional field data, all coming through from Sage. It's a quick, easy software to get up and running. Some time will be spent with you to configure it and make sure it's tailored to, your company and the way you work and, the tone of the letters that you want to use. And, you'll really benefit from the automated email reminders and the scheduling of the telephone calls, and the fact that you're not having to spend loads of time creating individual reports for customers and reporting to different people with the updates as to what's going on. So yeah, I'd say if you've got any questions, then we'll shortly be opening up the questions and answers area there.
All right. Thank you, Richard. That was excellent.
You're very welcome.
So I am going to look at the questions here. Again, as Richard said, if anybody has any questions, just put them in the question window and we'll answer them. I do have a couple here. First off, what does a typical Credit Hound implementation project look like in terms of time?
Yeah, so it does depend on the size of the organization, of course it does, but a typical sort of install to go live, you're looking around 2 to 3 days of project time. And that's made up of initial scoping to understand what the customer wants to achieve, what the automations are to look like and deal with. And then the installation is actually very quick. It's, again, built for Sage 300, so the installation can be done remotely and quickly on your PCs and your server. And then it's down to us to configure the software and get you trained on it as well. So all in all, you're looking around 2 to 3 days on average.
Okay. The next question was, do you write data back to Sage 300?
Mostly no, but there's just one thing we do write back, and that is when we put an account on stop in Credit Hound, we write that back to Sage 300. But that is the only thing we do write back. Everything else is sort of read only. So as Credit Hound is a separate application to Sage, it works by synchronizing or syncing the data. That can be done automatically on a scheduler, or it can be instigated within the software by yourself as the user. And the frequency depends on sort of your business, but it's often done, once all your cash allocation's been done in the morning, and probably first time in the morning, just to make sure you're looking up the data. But the sync speed is very, very quick indeed.
Yep.
So it might be that you perform a sync just before running a particular report or something like that.
Right. Okay. And like you said, it writes back and puts the customer on hold if you've done that credit stop.
Yeah. So for example, if a customer's well over their credit limit, way past due, why not automatically put them on stop in Sage? Reduce your risk. That is something that you should absolutely consider.
Okay. Let me go through here. We have had issues with certain characters not, sorry. No, that's the wrong one. Are there different types of licenses? And I guess it's probably worth, we didn't really talk about the licensing in Credit Hound, so maybe you can put those two together.
Yeah, sure thing. Yeah, yes, there is different types of license. There's a full user license, which pretty much is everything I've covered today.
Right.
Running the workflows, sending emails out, running reports. So that's what we class as a full user license. We also have a BI or manager user license, and that's really for the manager to be able to view all the data, run all the reports. They're not able to do any chasing or add notes to the accounts, but they are able to view the data and run the reports as a manager. So that's sort of a cheaper of the two licenses, but that's a very typical requirement for a business. So you'd probably have 2, 3 full users and a manager license to go with that on top. And I think that's the way we price that, is there's like a bundle available to you at a discounted price for that number of users.
Yeah, and anybody that has questions, they can, I'll put our email up here at the end, and they can reach out to us, and we can talk to them. So that'll be great. I guess kind of a follow-on to the data, sharing of data, is the ask, is it hosted or on-premise application? I think you kind of answered that because you mentioned about installing on the PC and server, right?
Exactly, yeah. So this works, it's an on-premise application, but if you happen to have Sage 300 hosted by a provider, then we would just install Credit Hound in that environment as well,
Right.
with your Sage system.
Right.
Whether you connect on to that system to use Credit Hound, or alternatively, you might connect via VPN. Again, we can talk about that as and when we need to. But you've got both options.
Yeah. Okay. So let me just check one more time. I just want to check the chat here too. No. So that looks like all the questions. So I really appreciate it, you spending the time with us, Richard. I think it was very informative. I learned some things too. I like that term. Credit Hound is a CRM for credit control. So that's a great way to think about it. And you know, the fact that you can set up different credit management process for different customers is great for, you know, people who have diverse.
A really critical thing, because again, every business has lots of different customers that are different size, different relationships, you know, long-standing or new. So people do get worried about running full automation because they're worried about it might upset customers. Well, that's again the beauty of the software, is the fact that it can be customized for the different level of customer, or the different tier of customer that they might have. You know, you start off slow, and maybe you start introducing new phases of workflow when you're ready. You know, that's what it's all about.
Yeah, it makes it so customizable. And the same thing when you mentioned about, you know, basically starting the chase, you know, 10 days or whatever before they're due, so you're not already behind the 8 ball on due date, you know, so people can't do that. Oh, I didn't get the invoice, or, you know, it could be legitimate, could be, like you mentioned, some stall tactics. So you can kind of work to preempt that. And maybe some clients, you know, are more likely to do that. So you put them, like you said, in a different credit management class, right? And run a different process for them. And, you know, using the Sage 300 optional fields to categorize, that's standard. Everybody's got those now with their subscription from Sage. If they're not set up, like you mentioned, it's easy enough for us to do. And, you know, it can flow right through the system, you know, from order to shipment to invoice, and even to the GL. So, you know, those things can be managed fairly easily. You know, and it provides you with an ability to have a better working relationship with your customers, right? You don't have those embarrassing calls that, oh, you know, Will called me last week already about this, right? It's taken care of. And the other one I hadn't thought about before was when you mentioned about putting just one invoice or part of one invoice in a query status, and then the rest of what's outstanding being able to, you know, keep that going ahead, so that, you know, if people, whether it's on purpose or not, if they're delaying that invoice, you're not delaying all of the invoices if there's multiple.
Yeah. So and one thing I didn't mention, I've just reminded myself, is you know, the fact that we can add a pay now button, a pay button on those reminder emails as well. And, you know, if you're uncomfortable accepting sort of bank payments via credit card or debit card because of costs, then we can put logic in place to say, okay, any reminder that's under a certain value, we do add the pay button on, but anything over a certain value because of sort of costs to the business, we don't put the pay button on. We will make sure that they pay us by sort of a check or bank transfer. So there's lots of different options to the business.
All right. Well, I think we've answered all the questions. So we've, we're a little bit before the top of the hour, so I'll just mention that our next Lunch and Learn is May 19th. And as Richard mentioned, Sage Data and Analytics, as it's called for Sage customers, it's powered by Zap Business Intelligence for Sage 300, and Zap has been around for quite a while. They've enhanced their partnership with Sage, much like DrayCir has with Credit Hound. And there's a great offering to have a great analysis and BI tool and reporting tool added to your system. So we're going to be presenting that. This will be our first time presenting the SDNA or Sage Data and Analytics product. So you can see it on our website. You'll see it in the emails and the newsletter. So if that's of interest to you, please go to the website now under the news tab, and you can see the event and register for it. So I want to thank you all for your time. We are going to send an email with the recording. Probably, I think it'll happen later today or tomorrow. If you do have any questions about Credit Hound, and Richard mentioned also their Spindle document distribution solution, which has some great features in it. We can talk to you about either of those. Just give us a call at the office. Mike and I are happy to answer, or send an email to sales@dia.ca, and we'll get back to you quickly. And I hope everybody stays safe. And again, thank you very much for today, Richard. Appreciate it.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Thank you very much for your time, everybody. Good to speak to you.
All right. Have a great day, everyone.